The smell of espresso and my father's cigars had soaked into every surface of the villa. I stood at the window of the breakfast room, my fingers wrapped around a cup that had gone cold an hour ago, watching the morning light paint gold across the Tuscan hills. Behind me, I could hear the muted voices of men discussing things I wasn't supposed to understand. Territory, allegiances, blood debts. My father's empire, built on violence masked as tradition. Julia. My father's voice cut through my thoughts, rough with the sickness that had been eating him alive for 6 months. Come here, Kara. I turned, setting down the cup with hands that wanted to tremble. Papa looked smaller than I remembered, his frame swallowed by the leather chair that had once seemed like a throne. The cancer had taken everything from him except his authority. That he wore like armor even now. Yes, Papa. I crossed the room, aware of the eyes that followed me. Uncle Tommaso, Luca Moretti, and him, always him. Matteo Rinaldi stood by the door, his usual position, a shadow made flesh. At 34, he carried himself with the stillness of a man who'd learned violence as a first language. His dark hair was swept back from a face all sharp angles and harder edges. A face I'd memorized in the dark, in secret, for as long as I could remember wanting things I wasn't supposed to want. He didn't look at me. He never did. Not directly. Not the way I needed him to. Sit. Papa gestured to the chair beside him, and I obeyed because that's what daughters did in families like ours. We obeyed. We smiled. We pretended not to hear the screams that sometimes echoed from the wine cellar. I sat, smoothing my dress over my knees, a cream linen that suddenly felt too thin, too exposed under the weight of male attention. Uncle Tommaso's gaze lingered too long. It always did. Luca's was clinical, assessing. But Matteo's, in those rare moments when he thought I wasn't looking, burned with something he'd never name. You're 20 now, Papa said, as though I didn't know my own age. A woman. It's time we secured your future. My stomach dropped. I'd known this was coming. Had known since I was 15 that my marriage would be a transaction, a merger of power and territory wrapped in white lace and lies. But knowing and facing it were different things. I've arranged a marriage, Papa continued. His voice matter of fact, like he was discussing livestock. Stefano Villela. The name hit me like a fist. Stefano. Everyone knew about Stefano. The stories that circulated in whispers. Women who'd gone to him whole and come back broken. Men who'd crossed him and simply disappeared. He was beautiful and brutal, charming and cruel. Everything my father would admire in a successor. Everything I'd learned to fear. Papa, no. The words escaped before I could stop them. Please, anyone but him. It's done. His finality was absolute. The contracts are signed. In 3 days, Matteo will escort you to the mountain house. Stefano will meet you there for the ceremony. 3 days, 72 hours until I became the wife of a monster. I looked at Matteo then, desperate for something, anything. Intervention, protection. The smallest sign that this mattered to him beyond duty. But his expression remained carved from stone, his dark eyes fixed somewhere past my shoulder. Matteo. Papa's attention shifted. You'll take her yourself. No one else. She's precious cargo, you understand? Sacred. Something flickered across Matteo's face, too quick to read. Of course, Don DeSantis. I'll guard her with my life. You always have. Papa's smile was thin, approving. Since the day I pulled you from the gutter, you've been her shadow, her protector. Now you'll deliver her safely to her future. The irony was vicious. The man who'd kept me safe from every threat would now deliver me into the hands of the greatest danger I'd ever faced. May I be excused? I barely recognized my own voice, small and distant. Papa waved his hand dismissively, already turning back to his men, to the empire that mattered more than any daughter's fear. I stood carefully, keeping my spine straight, my face neutral. Everything I'd been taught about maintaining composure in front of weakness. I made it to the hallway before the tears threatened. Made it to the back staircase before I had to press my palm against my mouth to keep the sob from escaping. The villa was a labyrinth I'd known all my life, and I navigated it blindly, seeking the only refuge I'd ever had. The library was empty, blessedly dark with the curtains still drawn against the morning sun. I sank into the leather armchair that had cradled me through childhood nightmares and adolescent heartbreaks, pulling my knees to my chest like I was small again, like I could make myself small enough to disappear. Stefano Villela. The name kept circling through my thoughts like a vulture. I'd seen him once, at a wedding 2 years ago. Beautiful in the way poisonous things are beautiful. He'd smiled at me across the reception hall, and the smile had promised things that made my skin crawl. When I'd looked away, terrified, I'd found Matteo watching us, his expression murderous. He'd appeared at my elbow moments later, his hand proprietary on my lower back, steering me away with a quiet, "Don DeSantis needs you." A lie, but effective. Stefano had watched us leave, his smile never wavering, and I'd felt marked, claimed, hunted. "You shouldn't be alone." I jerked upright. Matteo stood in the doorway, backlit by hallway light, a dark silhouette that should have frightened me but never had. Never would. "I'm not alone now," I said, hating how my voice cracked. He moved into the room with that predator's grace I'd watched him develop over the years. From the half-feral street rat my father had adopted to this, a weapon honed to perfection. He'd been 16 when Papa brought him home, and I'd been 2. My earliest memories included him, a dark presence always hovering at the edges, keeping me safe from things I was too young to understand. "Julia." He stopped a careful distance away, maintaining the space he always maintained, the invisible line he'd drawn between us years ago and never crossed. "This is necessary." "Necessary," I repeated, the word bitter on my tongue. "That's what you always say. When Papa orders someone killed, it's necessary. When he breaks someone's bones for disrespect, it's necessary. And now when he sells me to a psychopath, that's necessary too." "Don't." His voice went hard. "Your father knows what's best for the family." "For the family," I laughed, harsh and hollow. "I'm 20 years old, Matteo. I've never left this villa without armed guards. I've never chosen anything for myself. Not my clothes, not my friends, not my future. And you stand there and tell me this is necessary?" "Yes." But something in his eyes contradicted the certainty in his voice. Something wounded and furious and carefully, brutally contained. I stood, closing the distance between us before I could think better of it. Close enough to see the faint scar along his jawline from a knife fight when he was 19. Close enough to smell the cedar and smoke that clung to him. Close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. "You don't want this," I said quietly. "I can see it. You hate this. What I want doesn't matter." His hands clenched at his sides, white-knuckled. "I serve your father. I protect you. That's my purpose." "Protect me." The words came out sharper than I'd intended. "You're handing me over to Stefano Villela. Everyone knows what he is, what he does. He won't hurt you." But even Matteo couldn't quite sell the lie. "The alliance is too important. You're too valuable." "I'm a commodity." I reached up, my fingers finding his jaw, feeling the muscle jump beneath my touch. "Just another asset to be traded." He caught my wrist, his grip firm but careful, always careful with me. "Don't." "Don't what? Don't touch you? Don't want you?" I watched his eyes darken. watched the careful control start to crack. I've wanted you my whole life, Matteo. Since I was old enough to understand what wanting meant. And you've spent that entire time pretending I'm invisible. You're the Don's daughter. Each word came out clipped, controlled. You're sacred. Untouchable. I'm a woman, I corrected. And I'm terrified. In 3 days, you're going to drive me up to that mountain house and hand me over to a man who frightens me more than anything I've ever known. And you'll do it because Papa ordered you to. Because duty matters more than anything else. His grip on my wrist tightened fractionally. Giulia. Tell me I'm wrong, I challenged. Tell me you don't care, that I'm just another assignment, that watching me marry Stefano won't bother you at all. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Then, so quietly I almost missed it. I can't tell you that. The admission cracked something open in my chest. Then help me. Please, there has to be another way. There isn't. He released my wrist, stepping back, rebuilding the walls I'd briefly breached. Your father's dying, Giulia. This alliance with the Villela family secures the future. It protects everything he's built, everyone who depends on us. Your feelings, my feelings, they don't factor into the equation. So that's it? Bitterness flooded back, drowning hope. I just accept my fate? You survive. His voice gentled slightly. You're stronger than you think. You'll find a way to manage Stefano, to build a life. A life, I repeated hollowly. Is that what you call it? He moved toward the door, done with this conversation, done with my weakness. But he paused at the threshold, his broad shoulders tense beneath the perfectly tailored shirt. I'll keep you safe on the journey, he said without turning around. That's all I can promise. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with the books and the darkness and the weight of a future I couldn't escape. I sank back into the chair, hugging myself against a cold that had nothing to do with temperature. 3 days, 72 hours until my life ended, and something else began, something I couldn't bear to imagine. Outside, I could hear the villa coming alive, the household staff beginning their routines, the guards changing shifts, the machinery of my father's empire turning as it always had, indifferent to the small tragedy unfolding in a darkened library. Matteo would drive me to the mountains, would deliver me to Stefano with the same efficiency he brought to every task Papa assigned. Would probably stand witness at the ceremony, his face carved from granite, his eyes empty of everything I'd glimpsed moments ago, and I would marry a monster, because that's what daughters did in families like ours. We sacrificed. We smiled. We pretended the cage wasn't killing us. The only question was whether I'd survive long enough to find a way out, or whether Stefano Villela would break me first. The next morning arrived with the kind of crystalline clarity that made everything seem sharper, more real. I dressed carefully, choosing a simple black dress that felt appropriate for mourning a life not yet ended. My hands trembled as I fastened the small gold crucifix my mother had given me before she died, back when I still believed in protection through prayer. Downstairs, the villa hummed with controlled chaos. Papa's condition had worsened overnight. Dr. Caruso had been summoned at dawn, his Mercedes a somber black shape in the courtyard. I could hear the low voices from Papa's room as I passed, Uncle Tommaso's distinctive rasp cutting through the murmur. 2 days at most, I heard. Maybe 3 if he's stubborn. 2 days. He might not even live to see me married. I found Matteo in the kitchen, unusual for him at this hour. He typically avoided the domestic spaces, preferring the shadows and edges where he could monitor, protect, control. But here he was, a cup of espresso in his large hands, staring at nothing. He looked up when I entered, and for a moment, I saw exhaustion in the lines around his eyes. Before his expression smoothed into neutrality, "You should eat something," he said, as though we hadn't shattered something fragile between us yesterday. I'm not hungry. I poured myself coffee with hands that had steadied overnight, along with my resolve. When do we leave? Tomorrow. At dawn. He took a deliberate sip of his espresso. We'll take the mountain route. Less exposed. Less chance of me escaping, you mean? Something flickered in his dark eyes. Julia, it's fine. I wrapped both hands around my cup, seeking warmth. I've accepted it. You were right. Survival is all that matters. But even as I said it, I was cataloging options. The villa had 14 exits if you counted the cellar access. 3 of those were routinely monitored, but the service entrance near the laundry was only guarded at night. The stables held 4 cars with keys hanging in the tack room. If I could get to one, I had maybe a 30-minute head start before they realized I was gone. Don't. Mateo's voice cut through my planning. Whatever you're thinking, don't. I met his gaze over the rim of my cup. I don't know what you mean. You're calculating escape routes. He set down his espresso with controlled precision. I can see it in your eyes, the same look you had when you were 12 and tried to run away to Milan. The memory stung. He'd found me at the train station, had carried me back to the villa over his shoulder, while I beat my fists against his back and screamed. Papa had locked me in my room for a week. Mateo had stood guard outside my door the entire time, silent and immovable. I was a child then, I said. You're Don DeSantis's daughter now. That hasn't changed. He leaned forward, his intensity pinning me in place. If you run, he'll send everyone after you. Not just me. Every soldier, every connection, every favor owed. And when they find you, and they will find you, the consequences won't fall on you alone. What do you mean? Your father will assume someone helped you, enabled your escape. His jaw tightened. He'll make examples. Understanding crashed over me. The staff. Maria, who's been with your family since before you were born. Giuseppe, who tends the gardens. Even Dr. Caruso. His voice was level, factual, delivering horror with clinical precision. Anyone who could have looked the other way. Your father doesn't tolerate disloyalty, Julia. You know this. I did know. Had seen it. The gardener's son who'd been caught stealing, beaten so badly he never walked right again. The maid who'd gossiped about family business, dismissed without references, her reputation destroyed. Papa's justice was absolute and merciless. So I'm trapped, I said quietly. You're protected. But the correction rang hollow. There's a difference. Before I could respond, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Luca Moretti appeared in the doorway, his suit immaculate despite the early hour. He nodded to Matteo, barely glancing at me. Don DeSantis wants to see you both. We followed Luca through corridors I'd walked 1,000 times, past portraits of dead ancestors who'd built this empire on blood and brutality. Papa's bedroom door stood open, revealing a space that smelled of illness and expensive cologne fighting a losing battle. Papa looked worse than yesterday. His skin had taken on a gray pallor, his breathing labored. But his eyes, when they fixed on me, remained sharp and assessing. Julia, come. He gestured weakly, and I moved to his bedside, aware of Matteo taking up position near the door, a guardian even here. Yes, Papa? Stefano called this morning. Papa's hand found mine, his grip surprisingly strong. He's eager to meet you, impatient for the wedding. My stomach clenched. I see. He'll be good to you. Papa's eyes searched my face. He knows your value, the alliance this marriage creates. You'll want for nothing, Cara. Except freedom, except choice, except a life that doesn't end in bruises and broken bones. I understand, Papa. Good girl. He patted my hand, satisfied. Matteo, a word. I was dismissed. I rose, keeping my expression neutral, and moved toward the door. As I passed Matteo, our shoulders nearly brushed. I felt the heat of him, the tension coiled in his frame. In the hallway, I paused just beyond the doorframe, hidden in the shadows, listening. I want your word. Papa's voice drifted out, raspy and weak. Your sacred oath. You'll deliver her safely, no matter what. You have it. Mateo's response was immediate, absolute. On my life. She may try to run, may try to convince you to help her. A pause, wheezing breath. You'll resist. For her own good. For the family. I understand. Do you? Papa's voice hardened despite his condition. I see how you look at her, Mateo. Have seen it for years. You think I'm blind? You think I don't know? Silence, heavy and damning. She's not for you, Papa continued, each word deliberate. She's Don DeSantis's daughter. You're the weapon I pulled from the gutter and honed. Useful, loyal, but not equal. Never equal. Remember that. I know my place. Mateo's voice had gone flat, emotionless. The voice he used before violence. Good. Because if you forget, if you let sentiment cloud your judgment, I'll have Luca deliver her instead. And you'll spend whatever time I have left in the cellar, contemplating the consequences of betrayal. My hand flew to my mouth, stifling the gasp. Papa knew, had always known, and was using that knowledge like a knife, cutting away any possibility of rescue. That won't be necessary, Mateo said. I'll deliver Giulia to Stefano Villela as ordered, without deviation, without sentiment. See that you do. I forced myself to move, to walk down the hallway before they emerged and caught me eavesdropping. My heart hammered against my ribs. Mateo loved me, wanted me. Papa knew, and was using it to ensure my cage remained locked. I made it to my room before the tears came, hot and furious. I'd been naive to hope. Naive to think Mateo might choose me over duty. Papa had trained him too well, had sunk hooks too deep. Whatever Mateo felt for me, it wasn't enough to overcome a lifetime of conditioning. The day crawled past. I stayed in my room, pleading illness when Maria came to check on me. Through my window, I watched the comings and goings. Dr. Caruso leaving at noon. Uncle Tommaso and several soldiers arriving at 2. A black SUV pulling up at 4, disgorging men I didn't recognize. Stefano's men, I realized with sick certainty. Advanced security. Making sure the route to the mountain house was clear. Making sure their boss's prize arrived unblemished. At 7, someone knocked. Not the tentative tap of the household staff, but a firm, controlled strike. It's open, I called, not bothering to hide the defeat in my voice. Mateo entered carrying a tray. Pasta, bread, wine. He set it on the small table by the window and stood back, hands clasped behind him. You need to eat, he said. I'm not hungry. Giulia. He moved closer, his shadow falling across me. Starving yourself won't change anything. I know. I looked up at him, taking in the hard lines of his face, the eyes that revealed nothing. Papa told you I might try to run, warned you not to help me. His jaw tightened infinitesimally. Yes. And you agreed, promised to deliver me to Stefano no matter what. Yes. Even though you want me. I stood, closing the distance between us, reckless with despair. Even though you've wanted me for years. Papa knows, Mateo. He's always known. It doesn't matter what I want. But his voice had roughened, control slipping. Your father saved me, gave me purpose. Everything I am, I owe to him. And what do you owe me? I reached up, my palm finding his chest, feeling his heart thunder beneath expensive fabric. I've spent my whole life watching you, wanting you, waiting for you to see me as something more than the Don's daughter. More than a duty. Giulia, don't. His hand covered mine, holding it against his chest instead of pushing it away. You're making this impossible. It already is impossible. I felt tears spill over, hot on my cheeks. Tomorrow you'll drive me to Stefano. You'll watch him claim what you've always wanted, and you'll walk away because Papa ordered you to. Because duty matters more than love. Love, he repeated, the word harsh in his mouth. You think you love me? I know I do. The admission felt like liberation and damnation. And I think you love me too, even if you'll never admit it. For one desperate moment, I thought he might break. His other hand came up, his thumb brushing away my tears with devastating gentleness. His dark eyes searched my face like he was memorizing every detail. It doesn't matter, he said finally, stepping back, putting careful distance between us. Love doesn't change reality. Then reality is cruel. Yes. He moved toward the door, his spine rigid with control. Eat something. Get rest. We leave at dawn. Matteo. I waited until he paused at the threshold. When Stefano hurts me, and he will hurt me, will you be able to live with yourself, knowing you could have stopped it? I saw his shoulders tense, saw his hand grip the door frame hard enough, his knuckles went white. But when he spoke, his voice was steady. I'll learn to live with it, just like I've learned to live with everything else. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with cold pasta, and the certainty that tomorrow would arrive regardless of how much I wished it wouldn't. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat by the window, watching the stars wheel overhead, counting down the hours until dawn, until the drive that would end everything. Somewhere in the villa, Matteo was probably awake too, standing guard or pacing or staring at nothing while wrestling with the same impossible choice. Love or duty, me or survival. And I knew, with bitter certainty, which one he'd choose. He'd choose duty. He always had. Dawn arrived like an executioner, cold and indifferent. I dressed in practical clothes, jeans and a cream sweater, boots suitable for mountain roads. My hands moved mechanically through the routine, braiding my hair, fastening my mother's crucifix, checking the small bag Maria had packed with essentials for the journey. The woman in the mirror looked like a stranger, pale, hollow-eyed, already grieving. I descended the stairs to find Matteo waiting in the foyer. He'd changed into dark tactical clothing, comfortable and functional. A gun was holstered at his hip, another at his ankle. Protection, he'd call it. Prison, I knew better. Ready? He asked, his voice carefully neutral. Does it matter? Something flickered in his eyes, too fast to identify. He picked up my bag and gestured toward the door. The car's waiting. Outside, a black Range Rover sat with its engine running, windows tinted so dark I couldn't see inside. Giuseppe stood nearby, twisting his cap in weathered hands. He'd known me since I was born, had pushed me on the swing set, taught me the names of every flower in the garden. Signorina Giulia, he said quietly, his eyes wet. Be safe. Thank you, Giuseppe. I hugged him, breathing in the smell of soil and roses that always clung to him. Take care of the jasmine. It needs extra water in summer. I felt his shoulders shake, but he released me without another word. Everyone knew this might be the last time. Papa was dying. I was leaving. The villa would pass to someone else, some other branch of the family tree. Matteo loaded my bag into the back and opened the passenger door. I climbed in, the leather seat cold despite the running engine. He settled into the driver's seat with economical grace, checking mirrors with professional efficiency. We pulled away from the villa as the sun crested the hills, painting everything gold and crimson. I twisted in my seat, watching my childhood home shrink in the distance. The gardens where I'd learned to walk, the terrace where I'd taken breakfast every morning, the window of my room where I'd spent countless nights dreaming of freedom, all of it disappearing. Don't look back, Matteo said quietly. It's easier if you don't look back. Easier for whom? He didn't answer. The road stretched ahead, winding through Tuscan countryside that should have been beautiful, but felt like a countdown. Each kilometer bringing me closer to Stefano, to a future I couldn't bear to imagine. We drove in silence for the first hour. I watched the landscape change from cultivated vineyards to wilder terrain, hills giving way to mountains. The road narrowed, twisted. Matteo navigated with the competence he brought to everything, his hands steady on the wheel. "Do you remember," I said suddenly, breaking the silence, "when I was 16 and fell from the terrace?" His jaw tightened. "Yes. You caught me, broke my fall." I traced the scar on my palm, a thin line from where I'd grabbed the railing. "Broke your wrist in the process." It healed. "Papa was furious, said you should have let me learn the consequences of carelessness." I glanced at him. "But you couldn't, could you? Even then you couldn't let me get hurt." "Your father was testing me." His voice remained controlled, teaching me when to intervene and when to let consequences teach lessons. And which was that? A test or a lesson? Both. He took a curve with precision. I failed the test by intervening, but I learned the lesson. Sentiment makes you weak. Is that what caring about someone is to you? Weakness? In our world, yes. His hands tightened on the wheel. Every attachment is a vulnerability. Every person you care about is a target someone can use against you. "Then you must be very weak," I said quietly, "because you care about me, despite everything Papa taught you, despite knowing it's dangerous." He was silent for a long moment. Then, barely audible, "Yes, I'm weak when it comes to you." The admission hung between us, fragile and precious. I wanted to reach across the console, to touch him, to feel the proof that I wasn't alone in this impossible feeling. But I kept my hands in my lap, afraid that any movement might shatter whatever truth we'd found. "The summer I turned 18, I continued, memories flooding back. Papa sent me to the lake house. Said I needed to be away from the villa for a few weeks while he conducted business. I remember. You came with me, my guard, my shadow. I watched his profile, the hard line of his jaw. It was just us, no other staff, no soldiers, just you and me for 2 weeks. Julia, let me finish." I took a breath. I thought maybe away from Papa, away from duty and hierarchy, you might see me differently. So I tried. I wore my mother's dresses, made dinner, sat with you on the dock at sunset. His knuckles had gone white on the steering wheel. I noticed, and on the last night, I kissed you. The memory was crystal clear, the moon on the water, the smell of night-blooming jasmine, gathering all my courage and pressing my lips to his, tentative and terrified and desperately hopeful. "You kissed me back," I said softly. "For maybe 5 seconds, you kissed me like I was everything you'd ever wanted. And then you pushed me away. Told me I was a child, that I didn't understand what I was doing. You were 18. I was old enough to know my own mind, old enough to know what I wanted. I turned to face him fully. You broke something in me that night, Matteo. Not because you rejected me, but because I saw the truth. You wanted me, but you wanted Papa's approval more." His jaw worked, tension radiating from him. "Your father trusted me with you. Alone, isolated, vulnerable. And I betrayed that trust the moment I kissed you back. For 5 seconds, I forgot everything he'd taught me, everything I owed him." His voice had gone rough. When I came back to myself, realized what I'd done, I was terrified. Not of your father's punishment, but of myself, of how easily you made me forget. "So you've spent the last 2 years avoiding me?" protecting you." He glanced at me briefly before returning his attention to the road. "From me. From what I might do if I let myself want you the way I wanted to that night." My heart hammered against my ribs. "And now? Driving me to Stefano? Is that protection too?" "Yes." But the word sounded like it cost him something. "Stefano's alliance protects the family, protects everyone who depends on us. Your life will be comfortable, secure. You'll want for nothing. Except you." The Range Rover swerved slightly before he corrected. A crack in his control that sent something fierce through me. Hope, maybe, or desperation. "Pull over," I said suddenly. "What?" "Pull over, please." He did, guiding the vehicle onto a narrow overlook. Below us, valleys spread in green and gold patchwork. Above, mountains rose like jagged teeth. We were completely alone. I unbuckled my seatbelt and turned to face him. "Look at me, Matteo. Really look at me." He did, his dark eyes meeting mine with an intensity that stole my breath. I saw everything he'd been hiding. Want and fury and grief and a love so desperate it bordered on violence. "I have a proposition," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "A negotiation." "There's nothing to negotiate." "Isn't there?" I leaned closer. "Papa's dying. 2 days, maybe 3. Once he's gone, Stefano's alliance matters less. The contracts aren't signed in blood." "Julia, let me finish." I pressed on before courage failed. "Take me somewhere else, not the mountain house. Somewhere Stefano can't find us. We'll wait until Papa passes. Then we'll renegotiate. Find another alliance, another solution that doesn't require me to marry a psychopath. You're asking me to betray your father on his deathbed. I'm asking you to save me." My hand found his chest, feeling his heart race beneath my palm. "You've protected me my whole life. Protect me now. Not from some external threat, but from this. From Stefano. From a life that will destroy me." His hand covered mine, holding it against his chest. "If I do this, if I take you somewhere else, your father will know. He'll send everyone after us. We'd be hunted for the rest of our lives. Then we run. Far enough, fast enough. Start over somewhere he can't reach. There is nowhere he can't reach." But I heard the crack in his certainty. "Even dying, even with days left, Don DeSantis has resources, connections across continents. We'd be looking over our shoulders forever. At least I'd be looking over my shoulder with you instead of staring into Stefano's eyes while he breaks me." The words landed like blows. I watched Matteo flinch, watched pain flash across his face before he could mask it. "You don't understand what you're asking," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "The life you're proposing, running, hiding, constantly afraid, that's not protection, Julia. That's another kind of prison. At least it would be a prison of my choosing. Would it?" His other hand came up, framing my face with devastating gentleness. "Or would you eventually resent me? Hate me for making you give up everything? Your name, your family, your entire world? I already hate this world." I turned my face into his palm, pressing my lips against his skin. "A world where I'm property to be traded, where love doesn't matter, where you'll hand me to a monster because duty requires it." His thumb brushed across my cheekbone, catching a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. "I can't give you what you want. You mean you won't?" "No." His eyes held mine, fierce and final. "I mean I can't. Even if I wanted to, even if I agreed to run with you right now, your father's death wouldn't free us. Stefano would take it as an insult. His family would demand blood. The alliance would shatter, and everyone who depends on the DeSantis protection would suffer. So we sacrifice me to protect everyone else." Yes, the admission was raw. "I'm sorry, Julia, But that's how this world works. I pulled away from his touch, something hardening in my chest. Then you're exactly what Papa made you. A weapon without a will of your own. Yes, he agreed, and I heard the self-loathing beneath the acceptance. That's exactly what I am. He started the engine, ending the conversation, ending the possibility. We pulled back onto the road, continuing our journey toward the mountains, toward Stefano, toward my destruction. But something had shifted. I'd seen the truth in Matteo's eyes, heard it in his voice. He loved me, wanted me. But his conditioning ran deeper than love, stronger than want. Papa had trained him too well, and I was going to pay the price. The road climbed higher, the air growing thinner, colder. I watched the landscape become more desolate, more isolated. Perfect for a wedding no one would witness. Perfect for a prison no one could escape. How much longer? I asked, my voice hollow. 2 hours. Matteo's jaw was set, his profile carved from stone. Maybe less. 2 hours. 120 minutes until I became Stefano Vilella's wife. Until whatever remained of my life ended and something unrecognizable began. I closed my eyes, leaning my head against the cold window. Matteo had made his choice. Duty over love, the family over me. Now I'd have to make mine, survival or surrender. And I wasn't sure which one I had the strength to choose. The mountain house emerged from the pines like something from a nightmare dressed as a fairy tale. Stone and timber, perched on a cliff with views that stretched for miles. Isolated, beautiful, inescapable. Matteo slowed the Range Rover as we approached the iron gates, already open, already expecting us. 2 men in dark suits flanked the entrance, their hands resting casually near concealed weapons. Stefano's security. My breath caught in my throat. This was real. This was happening. Breathe, Matteo said quietly, the first words he'd spoken in an hour. I can't. My hands were shaking, my chest tight. Matteo, please. It's not too late. We could turn around. We could... Julia. His hand found mine, squeezing hard enough to hurt. Look at me. I did, desperate for anything, any sign of hope. You're stronger than you think, he said, his dark eyes intense. Stronger than Stefano, stronger than all of this. Whatever happens, remember that. It wasn't salvation, but it was something. A lifeline I clung to as we passed through the gates, tires crunching on gravel, climbing toward the house. The front door opened before we'd fully stopped. A man emerged, tall and lean, wearing casual elegance like armor. Stefano Villela. Even from a distance, I could see his beauty. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been sculpted by Renaissance masters. But there was something wrong in the perfection, something cold and calculating in the smile he wore. Stay in the car, Matteo ordered, already moving, positioning himself between me and the house. I watched through the windshield as he approached Stefano, as they exchanged words I couldn't hear. Stefano's smile never wavered, but his eyes, even from here, made my skin crawl. They flickered past Matteo to the Range Rover, to where I sat frozen, and the hunger in them was unmistakable. Matteo's posture changed, subtly aggressive. His hand didn't move toward his weapon, but the threat was implicit. Whatever he was saying, it involved boundaries, rules, lines Stefano couldn't cross. Yet. Finally, Matteo turned and walked back, his face a mask of control. He opened my door, offering his hand. Come, he said softly. It's time. My legs didn't want to work. Every instinct screamed to stay in the car, to lock the doors, to make this impossible. But Matteo's hand was steady, his grip firm, and somehow I found myself standing on gravel that felt like quicksand. Stefano approached with leisurely confidence, a predator assured of his prey. Up close, He was even more beautiful and more terrifying. His eyes were pale blue, almost colorless, empty of anything resembling warmth. Julia. He said my name like he was tasting it. You're even more lovely than I remembered. Signor Villela. I forced the words past numb lips. Stefano, please. His smile widened. We're to be married after all. Formality seems unnecessary between husband and wife. Not yet husband, not yet wife. But the presumption in his tone made it clear he considered me already his. Where's the priest? Matteo asked, his voice hard. Inside, waiting. Stefano's gaze never left me. Along with the witnesses, everything is prepared. Your father's instructions were very specific, Julia. He wanted the ceremony to take place immediately upon your arrival. Of course he did. No time to think, to reconsider, to escape. I'd like to freshen up first, I said, hating how my voice shook. The drive was long. Of course. Stefano gestured toward the house. Rosa will show you to your room. Take your time. We have all day, all night. The way he said it made bile rise in my throat. A housekeeper appeared, middle-aged and severe, gesturing for me to follow. I glanced at Matteo, desperate for something, any reassurance. His jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jump. I'll be right here, he said. A promise and a threat. He wouldn't leave, but he wouldn't save me either. I followed Rosa through the house, barely registering the luxury around me. Stone walls, exposed beams, furniture that probably cost more than most people earned in years. It should have been warm, inviting. Instead, it felt like a mausoleum. The bedroom Rosa led me to was stunning. 4-poster bed, fireplace, windows overlooking endless mountains. A white dress hung on the closet door, simple and elegant and suffocating. The wedding dress, Rosa said unnecessarily. Signor Villela selected it himself. There's a bathroom through there if you wish to shower. She left, closing the door with a soft click. I heard the lock turn from the outside. Trapped. I moved to the window, testing it. Locked. The glass was thick, probably reinforced. Even if I broke it, the drop was 30 feet to rocky ground. I'd break bones at minimum, likely worse. The bathroom was equally luxurious. Marble and glass, a shower that could fit 4 people, towels thick as blankets. I caught sight of myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Pale, terrified, already looking like a ghost. I splashed cold water on my face, trying to think. There had to be a way out. A window, a door, something. But even as I searched, I knew the truth. This house was a fortress. Stefano's men surrounded it, and Matteo, my only possible ally, had made his choice. Duty over love. The family over me. A knock at the bedroom door made me freeze. Julia? Matteo's voice, low and urgent. I rushed to the door, pressing my palm against the wood. I'm here. Are you all right? No. A laugh escaped, harsh and bitter. I'm locked in a room, about to be married to a monster. How could I possibly be all right? Silence. Then, I spoke with Stefano, set boundaries. He's agreed that tonight, after the ceremony, you'll have time to adjust. He won't force. He stopped, couldn't finish. How generous of him, I said flatly, to give me a few hours before he starts breaking me. Julia, is Papa dead yet? The cruelty in my voice surprised even me. Or do I have to go through with this while he's still breathing? He's alive. Matteo's voice had gone rough, but barely. Dr. Caruso called an hour ago. It's a matter of hours now. Hours. Papa would die today, probably. And I would marry Stefano. The two events forever linked in my memory, if I survived long enough to have memories. "I need you to do something for me," I said, leaning my forehead against the door, imagining I could feel Mateo's warmth through the wood. "Anything. After the ceremony, when you leave, because you will leave, don't look back. Don't check on me. Don't try to protect me from a distance. Just go. Live your life. Forget about me." "I can't do that." "You have to." Tears streamed down my face, hot and furious. "Because if you don't, if you stay connected to this, to me, I won't survive it. I'll keep hoping, keep believing you might save me, and that hope will destroy me faster than Stefano ever could. Julia, please, promise me, Matteo." My voice broke. "Promise me you'll let me go." The silence stretched so long I thought he'd left. Then, barely audible, "I promise." It was the kindest lie he'd ever told me. I heard his footsteps retreat, heard his voice in the hallway speaking to someone, probably Stefano. Then nothing. I was alone. I showered mechanically, washed my hair, dried it with the expensive hairdryer, applied makeup from the supplies Rosa had left, making myself beautiful for a man who would use that beauty as an excuse to destroy me. The wedding dress fit perfectly. Of course it did. Stefano had probably known my measurements before I did, had probably been planning this for months, years. I was a long-term investment finally paying dividends. Another knock. Rosa's voice. "It's time, Signorina." I took one last look in the mirror. The woman reflected there looked like a bride. White dress, flowers in her hair, carefully applied makeup highlighting her best features. She looked nothing like me. I opened the door. Rosa's expression softened fractionally. "You look beautiful." "Thank you." The words automatic, meaningless. She led me downstairs through corridors that blurred together. We emerged into what must have been a library, books lining the walls, a fireplace crackling with unnecessary warmth. A makeshift altar had been set up near the windows, flowers banking either side. Stefano waited there, stunning in a black suit, his pale eyes tracking my every movement. Behind him, the priest, ancient and resigned. To the side, two witnesses I didn't recognize, probably Stefano's men, and Matteo. He stood near the door, his face carved from granite, his hands clasped behind his back. Our eyes met across the room, and I saw everything he was feeling, rage and grief and helplessness, love, too terrible to acknowledge. I wanted to run to him, to beg one more time, to make him choose me over duty, over Papa, over everything. But I didn't, because I knew the answer. Rosa guided me forward, her hand gentle on my elbow. Each step felt like walking through water, through quicksand, through my own grave. Stefano's smile widened as I approached, genuine pleasure in his expression. "Beautiful," he murmured, taking my hand as I reached him. His grip was firm, possessive, already claiming. "Absolutely perfect." The priest began speaking. Latin words I'd heard at other weddings, joyful occasions. Here, they sounded like a funeral rite. I barely heard them. I was too focused on breathing, on staying upright, on not screaming. Stefano's hand tightened on mine whenever I swayed, steadying me, keeping me in place. The priest asked questions I answered automatically. "Yes, I do, I will." Lies, all of it. But lies that carried legal weight, religious weight, the weight of centuries of tradition that said women belonged to men who claimed them. Stefano slid a ring onto my finger, platinum and diamonds, beautiful and heavy as chains. I stared at it, this symbol of my captivity, and felt something inside me shatter. "You may kiss the bride," the priest intoned, relief evident that this painful duty was finished. Stefano's hands framed my face, tilting my head up. His lips met mine, and it was nothing like Matteo's kiss years ago. This was conquest, ownership, a promise of everything to come. I didn't respond, didn't resist, simply endured until he pulled back, satisfaction in his smile. "My wife," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The witnesses applauded politely. The priest gathered his things, eager to escape, and Matteo remained by the door, his face empty of everything, a perfect mask of control. "Shall we have dinner?" Stefano suggested, his arm around my waist, proprietary. "Celebrate properly?" "I'm not hungry. You need to eat." Not a suggestion, an order. "Rosa has prepared something special." He guided me toward the dining room, his hand a brand on my waist. I twisted back, looking for Matteo one last time. He was already moving toward the exit, his duty fulfilled, his mission complete. He'd delivered me to Stefano as promised. Now he was leaving, as I'd begged him to. "Matteo!" I called, the name ripped from somewhere deep. He stopped, didn't turn around, his shoulders rigid with tension. "Thank you," I said, the cruelty intentional, the words designed to cut. "For your service to my family, my father would be proud." I saw him flinch, saw his hands clench. Then he was moving again, through the door, gone. And I was alone with my husband, with Stefano Villela, with my future. The dinner was exquisite. 7 courses, each more elaborate than the last, served on china so fine I could see light through it. Stefano ate with refined pleasure, watching me push food around my plate. "You really should eat," he said, his voice pleasant. "You'll need your strength." The implication made my stomach turn. "I told you, I'm not hungry." He sipped his wine, studying me over the rim. "Tell me, Julia, what did your father say about me, about our marriage?" "That it was necessary, for the alliance. Necessary." He smiled. "Yes, I suppose that's one word for it. But there were other options, other families your father could have aligned with. He chose mine specifically. Do you know why?" I shook my head, not trusting my voice. "Because I asked for you." He set down his wineglass with deliberate care. 3 years ago at the Rossi wedding, I saw you across the room. Do you remember?" I did. The memory made my skin crawl. "You were 17, just beginning to bloom into the beauty you are now." His pale eyes tracked over me, possessive and cold. "I told your father that night that I wanted you, that when you came of age I would marry you. And he agreed, because he recognized what I could offer. Protection. Power. Resources his own failing health couldn't provide." "I'm 20, I said. "I came of age 2 years ago." "Yes, but your father was stubborn about waiting. Wanted you to have time to mature, he said, to be ready for marriage." Stefano's smile sharpened. I think he was stalling, hoping for a better option. But cancer has a way of forcing decisions, doesn't it? The casual cruelty in his voice, the way he discussed my father's death like a business opportunity, ignited something in me. Anger, maybe. Or the last spark of fight. "You're a monster," I said quietly. "Yes." He didn't deny it, didn't even seem bothered. "But I'm a monster with impeccable taste. And you, my dear wife, are my greatest acquisition." Acquisition. Not wife, not partner, possession. Matteo was right, I continued, reckless with despair. "You see me as property, something to own and display." At the mention of Matteo's name, something flickered in Stefano's expression. Interest, calculation. Ah, yes, the loyal guard dog. He leaned back in his chair. "I noticed how he looked at you, like you were something precious he couldn't have. It must have been torture for him, delivering you to me. Leave him out of this." "Why? Because you care about him?" Stefano's smile widened. How delicious. Don DeSantis' daughter in love with the street rat he rescued. Does Matteo know? Did you tell him before he walked away? That's none of your business. Everything about you is my business now. He stood, moving around the table with predatory grace. Your thoughts, your feelings, your secrets. All mine, Julia. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be. I pushed back from the table, standing to face him. I'll never accept it. Won't you? He stopped inches away, towering over me. We'll see. I'm very patient, and we have a lifetime for you to learn obedience. His hand came up, fingertips tracing my jawline with deceptive gentleness. I forced myself not to flinch, not to give him the satisfaction of seeing my fear. You're trembling, he observed. Good. Fear is honest. Better than false affection or manufactured smiles. I'll enjoy breaking down your defenses piece by piece until there's nothing left but submission. You'll be waiting a long time. I doubt that. His thumb brushed across my lower lip. But even if you're right, even if you fight me every day, you're still mine. Still trapped here with no escape, no rescue. Your precious Matteo has abandoned you. Your father is dying. There's no one left to save you. A sound from outside made us both turn. Car doors slamming, raised voices. Stefano frowned, irritation crossing his perfect features. Excuse me, he said, his hand dropping from my face. It seems we have unexpected visitors. He strode toward the entrance hall, leaving me alone in the dining room. I heard voices, angry and overlapping. One I recognized immediately, even muffled by distance. Matteo. My heart stuttered. He'd come back. Despite my words, despite his promise, he'd come back. I moved toward the doorway, staying in the shadows, listening. Violated the agreement, Matteo was saying, his voice deadly calm. Don DeSantis specified that Julia was to have time, that the marriage would be in name only until she adjusted. I'm aware of the agreement. Stefano's voice carried amusement, and I've honored it. My wife dined with me, nothing more. She's terrified. She's adjusting, as agreed. I want to see her. Not a request. A demand backed by violence barely contained. No. Stefano's voice hardened. You delivered her as instructed. Your duty is fulfilled. Leave before I consider your presence an insult that requires response. Silence, thick and dangerous. Then Matteo spoke, each word precise and lethal. Don DeSantis died an hour ago. The agreement died with him. My breath caught. Papa was gone. The man who'd controlled every aspect of my life, who'd sold me to secure his legacy, who'd trained Matteo to choose duty over everything. Dead. My condolences. Stefano didn't sound sorry. But that changes nothing. Julia is my wife, legally bound. The alliance stands regardless of your late Don's death. The alliance requires her consent, living consent. If she's broken, if she's damaged, the other families will see it as poor stewardship. They'll question your fitness to hold what you've acquired. I heard the shift in strategy. Matteo wasn't appealing to Stefano's mercy, because there was none. He was appealing to pride, to the politics that governed their world. Are you threatening me, Rinaldi? I'm stating facts. Matteo's voice had gone cold, the voice he used before violence. Julia is valuable beyond the alliance. She's Don DeSantis' only child, his heir. The families expect her to be treated with respect. If word spreads that you've abused her, that you've broken her, your reputation suffers. Your position weakens. Interesting theory. Stefano sounded almost amused. But I think you're forgetting who holds the power here. I have Julia, I have the marriage certificate. I have everything your late Don wanted me to have. What do you have, Rinaldi? Nothing but misplaced loyalty to a dead man and inappropriate feelings for a woman who'll never be yours. The crash came without warning. Bodies slamming against walls, furniture splintering. I ran to the entrance hall to find Matteo and Stefano locked in brutal combat. Matteo moved like the weapon Papa had made him, every strike calculated for maximum damage. But Stefano was faster than he looked. Beautiful, even in violence, his movements almost dance-like as he dodged and countered. "Stop!" I screamed, but neither heard me. Stefano's men moved to intervene, but Matteo's hand found his gun, training it on them while his other arm locked around Stefano's throat. "Call them off," Matteo ordered, his voice deadly calm despite the violence, "or I snap his neck." "Do it!" Stefano choked out, his smile visible even with Matteo's arm crushing his windpipe. "Kill me. Start a war. Destroy everything your Don died to protect. Prove you're exactly what everyone always suspected. A rabid dog that can't be controlled." Matteo's grip tightened, and for one terrible moment, I thought he'd actually do it. Thought I'd watch him kill Stefano and damn himself in the process. "Matteo, don't." I moved forward, my hand finding his arm. "Please. This isn't the way." His dark eyes met mine, wild with rage and something deeper. "He was going to hurt you. But he hasn't. Not yet." I kept my voice steady, despite the fear. "And if you kill him, you'll start a war that will destroy everyone. All the families. All the people who depend on us. Is that what you want?" "I want you safe," he growled. "I want you away from him." "Then find another way." My hand tightened on his arm. "Not this. Not murder that makes you know better than what you're trying to protect me from." Slowly, so slowly, Matteo's grip loosened. Stefano stumbled away, rubbing his throat, his pale eyes bright with something that might have been respect. "How touching," he said, his voice rough. "The street dog has teeth after all." "Shut up," I snapped, surprising everyone including myself. "Both of you. This posturing, this violence, it solves nothing." I turned to Matteo, taking in his disheveled appearance, the blood on his knuckles, the desperate fury in his eyes. "You came back," I said quietly. "I couldn't leave you with him." The admission was raw. "I tried. Got halfway down the mountain and realized I'd rather die than let Stefano have you." "Noble," Stefano interjected, still rubbing his throat. "But ultimately pointless. She's mine. Legally. The church has blessed it. The families have witnessed it. There's no undoing this marriage." "Then I'll stay," Matteo said, his gaze never leaving mine. "As her guard. Her protection." "Absolutely not," Stefano began. "It's reasonable," I interrupted, my mind racing. The other families would expect me to have protection. Someone loyal to my father's memory. It shows respect for the De Santis legacy. Stefano's eyes narrowed, calculating. "You want your loyal dog nearby? Fine. But he stays in the guest house. He has no access to our private quarters, and his presence here is conditional on good behavior, from both of you." It wasn't freedom, but it was something, a lifeline in the drowning. "Agreed," I said before Matteo could argue. "Then it's settled." Stefano straightened his suit, his composure restored. "Rinaldi can stay, as your guard, but make no mistake, Julia, you're still my wife, and eventually you will fulfill all the obligations that entails." The threat hung in the air, poisonous and clear. Stefano left then, his men following, leaving Matteo and me alone in the destroyed entrance hall. "You shouldn't have come back," I said, though relief flooded through me. "I know." He moved closer, his hand finding my face with desperate gentleness. "But I couldn't stay away. I've spent my whole life doing what your father wanted, being what he needed, and I watched you marry another man because duty required it. But I can't, Julia. I can't let him have you. Can't let him break you. So what do? I leaned into his touch, starved for it. I'm married to him, bound by law and church and family politics. There's no escape. Then we find another way. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone. We wait, we plan, and when the opportunity comes, we run. Far enough that even Stefano's reach can't find us. That's treason against the families. I don't care. The certainty in his voice was absolute. I've spent 34 years caring about duty and honor and loyalty to men who never deserved it. I'm done. You're what matters now. Only you. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that love could overcome politics and violence and centuries of tradition. But I'd learned better. He'll never let us go, I whispered. Then we'll make him. Matteo leaned his forehead against mine. Whatever it takes, Julia, I'll get you out of this. I promise. It was another promise I wasn't sure he could keep, but for the first time since dawn, I had hope. And sometimes hope was enough to survive one more day. 3 days passed in strange suspension. Matteo stayed in the guest house as agreed, visible but distant, a constant reminder of possibility. Stefano circled me with patient menace, testing boundaries, probing for weakness. He was true to his word about not forcing intimacy. But his presence was suffocating. Dinners where he watched every bite I took. Mornings where he appeared in doorways, tracking my movements. Nights where I heard his footsteps pause outside my locked bedroom door. Waiting. Always waiting. On the 4th morning, I woke to voices raised in anger downstairs. I dressed quickly and descended to find Matteo and Stefano locked in heated argument, Uncle Tommaso between them looking exhausted. Tradition requires it, Tommaso was saying. Don De Santis's funeral is tomorrow. Julia must be there. Absolutely not, Stefano replied coldly. She's my wife now. Her place is here. Her place is honoring her father. Matteo's voice was deadly calm. Every family will be there. Every alliance watching. If Julia doesn't attend, it insults her father's memory and raises questions about her treatment. Something passed between them, unspoken and dangerous. Stefano's pale eyes narrowed. Fine, he said finally. She attends, but I go with her. That would be inappropriate, Tommaso interjected carefully. The De Santis family burial is private, only blood relatives and those who served the Don directly. You weren't part of his inner circle. The insult was subtle, but deliberate. Stefano's jaw tightened. Then Rinaldi doesn't go either. I served Don De Santis for 18 years, Matteo countered. I have every right to pay my respects. You lost that right when you tried to kill me in my own home. The standoff stretched, tension coiling tighter. Finally, Uncle Tommaso spoke. A compromise. Julia attends with appropriate escort. 2 of Stefano's men, 2 of ours. Matteo included. The ceremony is brief. She returns immediately after. Stefano considered this, his gaze fixed on me. I'd been silent through the entire exchange, invisible again, my future decided by men arguing over possession rights. Agreed, Stefano said. But if she's not back by nightfall, I'll consider it a breach of agreement, with appropriate consequences. The threat was clear. Run, and people would die. People who'd been kind to me, who'd served my father faithfully. Stefano would make examples. She'll return, Matteo said, though his eyes met mine with desperate question. Would I? The funeral was set for sunset, Papa's final wish. We drove down the mountain in a convoy, Stefano's men in front, ours behind. Matteo drove, his hands steady on the wheel, but I felt the tension radiating from him. We could run, he said quietly. Right now. There's a plan. Passport, money, a contact in Rome who owes me. We could disappear. And Stefano would kill everyone who helped. I kept my gaze on the road ahead. Maria, Giuseppe, Uncle Tommaso. He'd burn through the entire household to punish my defiance. We'd be gone, safe. Would we? I finally looked at him. Or would we spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders, waiting for Stefano's revenge? That's not freedom, Matteo. That's just a different prison. Then what do you want to do? I didn't answer because I didn't know. All I had were impossible choices and the suffocating weight of other people's expectations. The villa appeared, draped in black. Cars lined the drive, every major family represented. Papa's funeral would be a display of power, a reminder of the empire he'd built on blood and fear. Inside, the chapel was packed. I moved through expressions of sympathy, hollow condolences from people who'd profited from my father's violence. Uncle Tommaso guided me to the front row, Matteo a silent shadow at my back. Papa's casket was closed. Cancer had destroyed the man inside beyond recognition. Better to remember him as he'd been, powerful, ruthless, in control. The service was traditional, Latin prayers and incense smoke, words about legacy and honor that rang hollow when I thought about what Papa had done to ensure that legacy. Sold his daughter, trained a boy to be a weapon, built an empire on suffering. This was what I was supposed to mourn. After, as we filed past the casket, Uncle Tommaso pulled me aside. "Your father left you something," he said quietly, pressing an envelope into my hands. "To be opened privately." I slipped it into my pocket, too numb to process curiosity. The burial was quick, efficient. Papa would rest in the family crypt alongside ancestors who'd carved their names in blood, his legacy secure. As the crowd dispersed, I found myself alone by the grave except for Matteo, keeping respectful distance. "He never loved me," I said, surprising myself with the words. "Not really. I was always just another asset, another piece in his empire. He loved you in his way." Matteo moved closer. He was just incapable of putting that love above his other priorities, like you were. The accusation hung between us. Matteo flinched but didn't deny it. "Yes," he said quietly, "like I was, until I couldn't be anymore." I pulled out the envelope, breaking the seal. Inside, a single page in Papa's careful script. "Julia, if you're reading this, I'm dead. Good. I've been dying for months, and I'm tired. I know you think I sold you to Stefano without care. Maybe I did, but I also know you. You're stronger than you believe, smarter, more capable of survival than I ever gave you credit for. Stefano is a monster, but he's a predictable monster. He values possession above all else. Use that. Make yourself indispensable. Learn his weaknesses, and when the time comes, destroy him. I've left you resources. Accounts Stefano doesn't know about. Connections loyal to DeSantis blood, not Villela gold. Uncle Tommaso knows the details. Trust him. You think I trained Matteo to be my weapon. I did. But I also trained him to be yours when the time came. He loves you. Has always loved you. I used that love to control him. But now I'm gone. He's free. And so are you. Build something better than I did, Cara. Build something worth surviving for." Papa. My hands trembled as I read it twice, 3 times. Resources, connections, freedom. Papa had planned for this, had known Stefano was a monster and sent me anyway, but not without weapons. "What does it say?" Matteo asked. I handed him the letter, watching his expression shift from confusion to understanding, to something fierce and determined. He gave you a way out, Matteo said. He gave me tools. What I do with them is my choice. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something shift inside me. Not hope exactly, but possibility. I wasn't helpless, wasn't just a victim waiting for rescue. I was Don DeSantis's daughter. I'd been raised in this world, trained in its cruelty even if I'd tried to ignore it. And now I had resources, knowledge, and Matteo. We go back, I said, decision crystallizing. To Stefano, but not as his victim, as someone playing the long game. Julia, listen. I turned to face him fully. Running makes us prey, hunted for the rest of our lives. But if I stay, if I play Stefano's game while building my own power, I can destroy him from the inside. Take everything he thinks he owns and burn it to ash. That could take years. I have time. I touched his face, memorizing the hard angles I'd loved my whole life. And I'll have you. Papa was right. You're free now. Free to choose me. Free to help me build something better. Understanding dawned in his dark eyes. You want to take over. I want to survive. And then I want to make sure no other girl gets sold like cattle. I felt something cold and hard settling in my chest. Papa built an empire. I'll rebuild it. Better. Cleaner. With actual honor instead of the word used to justify brutality. Stefano won't let you. Stefano won't have a choice. I smiled, and it felt like my father's smile. Dangerous. Certain. He thinks he owns me. Let him. While he's busy enjoying his possession, I'll be taking everything that matters. His alliances, his resources, his power. And then we'll see if a monster can survive without his teeth. Matteo stared at me for a long moment. Then slowly he smiled. The real smile I'd seen maybe twice in my life. The one that transformed him from weapon to man. Your father would be proud, he said. I don't care about his pride anymore. I took his hand, feeling calloused strength close around mine. I care about survival, about building something worth having. Will you help me? Always. He brought my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles. Whatever you need. I'm yours, Julia. Finally, completely yours. Then let's go home. The word tasted strange, but right. We have work to do. We walked back to the cars together. Stefano's men watched warily, probably expecting escape attempts. Instead, they found us calm, controlled, ready to return. The drive back up the mountain felt different. I wasn't being delivered to my prison. I was returning to a battlefield with weapons I hadn't known I possessed. Stefano waited at the house, tension visible in his shoulders until he saw me emerge from the car, apparently compliant. Welcome back, wife, he said, possession in every word. Thank you, husband. I met his pale eyes steadily. I'm ready now. Ready? To be your wife, in every way. The lie came easily, dressed in surrender. Fighting this won't change anything. I might as well accept reality. Suspicion flickered across his perfect features. A sudden change of heart. My father's death clarified things. Not quite a lie. He built his legacy through pragmatism. Perhaps I should honor that. Stefano studied me, searching for deception. But I'd learned from the best. Papa had taught me to lie with truths, to hide calculation behind submission. Good, Stefano said finally, satisfaction in his voice. I'm glad you're being reasonable. This will be much more pleasant for both of us. I smiled. The perfect wife, properly obedient. Behind Stefano, I caught Matteo's eye. He understood. We both did. This was war, just fought with different weapons. Stefano thought he'd won, thought my surrender meant victory. He'd learn differently. I was Don DeSantis's daughter, and I'd inherited more than just his name.